Greetings, everyone. That's me, Thomas Cole. I help develop the sort of resilience design approach with many of my colleagues here. I work as a trainer and philanthropic advisor. We have Warren Brush, also farmer, educator, storyteller, permaculture teacher, also co-developer of RD. Um, and my partner in crime in a lot of this. And as I mentioned earlier, we have Evelyn Lalueno, who's been working with African Women Rising for well over 12 years. She's really pioneered the permagarden part of resilience design, and she leads a team of, I think, over 80 in northern Uganda. Really excited to have her and sharing her experience with us. Next. So, what is RD? We're basically taking sort of ecology and ecological thinking and regenerative agriculture, and we're bringing that into the humanitarian sector. And we're focusing on stabilizing water, building living soils, uh, increasing biodiversity in our system for nutrition and health outcomes. And we do that through a whole system design. And the approach is workable from the household level, small 1-2 meter square plots, all the way through watersheds. And it's an approach that builds on existing frameworks and principles around agroecology, permaculture, conservation agriculture, and a lot of other climate smart practices, but it sort of condenses it into a really workable and manageable approach. Over the last 10 years, we've been able to do this. Warren, next. RD has been being implemented in actually more than 25 countries over the last decade. 80 different organizations have embedded RD and RD principles into their work, as you can see. Warren. I'm going to hand it over to Warren here. I'm going to go off my video here to save some of our bandwidth, but thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. I'm really glad to be here today to talk about this subject about biofertilization, biopesticides, and this is very much an introductory to this very broad topic. What I like to do is to step back and actually look at the bigger picture around the issues of fertilization and pest and disease and how they impact our crops. And one of the ways that we look at the whole system in resilience design is we step back and we say, well, how is the natural system dealing with fertilization issues and dealing with pest and disease issues? And one of the things we find in a lot of research that's out there, as well as our own experience on the ground, is that a system that's designed with natural systems and using natural patterns in that system. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that can look like, but the ones that have that kind of natural approach to it have less pest and disease impact. So the more we're pushing against natural systems, the more we start to see there's higher levels of pest and disease. So when you start to do things that are very monocrop, soil disturbance, chemical inputs, we see a higher level of pest and disease at the core. And looking at why that is, I think is really important for us here today. So thinking about a crop success is really the ability, the foundation of a crop success is that each plant has the capacity to develop its macro and micronutrient uptake into that plant. So practices and inputs that inhibit the natural process of nutrient uptake create conditions for the plants to not be successful. And then when you have a system that does encourage macro and micronutrient uptake, you see higher levels of resistance. And I'll talk more about that, and also better production. The primary practices that we see that help us to get to high macro and micronutrient density is really begins in the soils, as most of us know, most of us who are working in agronomy. And what we're talking about is not just chemistry, but we're looking at the biology. So really, what is the healthy soil food web is a direct contributor to the health of that plant by helping it to translate nutrients into its stems and leaves and everything, to give it resistance and to give it healthy growth. The other practices is using slow and fast releasing nutrients in biofertilization, and then looking to organic pest repellents when necessary. And so as we start to dive into this, I want to just really link our plant nutrition and the nutrient uptake and density in the plants to our nutrition. And I think this is often missed in our nutritional programming around the world, is where we look at types of plants, we look at calories, but we don't look at the nutrient density necessarily in the plant. And that is another big reason why we understand that with pest and disease in a plant, often begins with poor nutrient uptake, and it's the same with people. And I think that's it's important for us to plan our human health by how we tend to the health of our plants and the soils that grow those plants. Another consideration in all of this is the macronutrient uptake and density in plants leads to climate resilience. And there's been a lot of studies that have recently come out that show the level of especially micronutrients in the plant, as well as the macronutrients, but often we're only looking at NPK and we're not looking at the other essential nutrients. And even though this one picture says 14 essential nutrients, in many plants there's up to 23 different essential nutrients that plants do need. And we have, so many of us are working on climate resilient programming, and yet we often don't think of designing each plant to have climate resilience. And so when you have higher nutrient uptake, you have better pest and disease resistance, you have better ability to moderate extreme temperatures, to hold on to water when you have flash droughts. There's a lot of data that's come out recently that prove this. And so I think it's a really important consideration when we're starting to look at the bigger picture here of the design of our climate resilient programs and climate resilient agriculture, to how are we making each plant resilient in the face of all the different issues that climate change is bringing to us. At the core, soil biology is the foundation. And so as we start to really look at how to create that climate resilient plant with high nutrient density, one of the things we have to do is we have to go back and look at how are we working with the soil? How are we fostering a healthy soil food web? And how are we developing the conditions for the optimal nutrient uptake? And we're going to have our second learning series. Tom will talk about it at the end, that is going to dive deeper into the processes of how do you keep or develop a healthy soil biome in our agriculture systems. And there's a lot of really good understanding around that now, what that takes. A lot of it has to do with our ability to protect the soil biome from chemical inputs, as well as from regular disturbance. And protecting it with different types of mulches and things. And I'll talk about that as well in just a few minutes. But at the core, so many functions of a healthy ecosystem in our agriculture systems are provided by the soil biology in that system. And, disease and pest suppression is just one of them. Moisture retention, nutrient cycling, even the decomposition of the mulches themselves, also looking at microbial production and creating relationships between the plants that are beneficial, as well as salinity regulation. And again, we're going to go over this in a lot more detail in our second in the learning series. So I'm going to start by just doing some background on biofertilization, really looking at what are biofertilizers, and we call them natural inputs made from organic materials that enhance soil biology and plant nutrition. I would even say there's mineral materials as well that we will sometimes involve in the process. Biofertilization strategies, and one of the reasons why we've landed on using basically organic inputs that are from local sources is that it's accessible to local farmers. So in the resilience design process, we are not bringing in outside inputs, and we're trying to develop locally adapted seeds. We're trying to work with the community to find what they need and to grow what they need to be able to maintain fertility and even grow the fertility in their agriculture systems. One of the things that we also appreciate about this is that it's very low cost. And when we're out working in different communities, they can access this for free. So we're essentially giving them higher profit margins for their production by not having them have to pay for all the different inputs that they often get in some of the types of programming that we've seen out there. We also see that a lot of the chemical inputs, there's direct damage to the soil biome, which is the key engine of nutrient uptake in plants. And so that's a much bigger issue that we need to be thinking about when we start to enter, bring a lot of chemicals into the system. So biofertilization is one of the strategies to enhance nutrient density. And so looking at improving the plant uptake, it also offers the plant additional resources during stress times. There's a lot of one of the things that I think of is that it creates, if you have a system of slow or what we call slow release nutrients and also fast release nutrients, the plant can actually harvest what it needs in the time that it needs it, just like we do. When we get a craving and we want to go and eat certain things, our body is telling us we need certain nutrients. Oftentimes, when we don't have the slow release and the fast release working together, we don't, the plant can't access what it needs when it needs it. So it diminishes its overall health. And then ultimately having biofertilization that's made with local resources is we reduce dependency on systems that are not always available. And if you don't have the funding for it, or if like in COVID where the supply chains were disrupted, it leaves you less resilient when you're dependent on something that's not from your own community. So let me talk a little bit about slow nutrient release biofertilization techniques. I think this is something that we talk about mulches. We look at mulches across the system, and we often look at monomulching, and I mean that like a monocropping, where we only use a single type of mulch. Like we'll have access to grass, so we'll put grass, and I think that's very healthy in a lot of ways. But what we're really ultimately trying to do is to mimic the forest floor. And so if we only put one type of leaf, one type of grass, we're not actually feeding the soil biome the diversity it needs to be healthy. So ultimately, what we're wanting to do is to have multiple types of mulches in all of our agriculture systems. And that can be, dry, dead mulches, even stone mulching we've done a lot with as well, where we use stones to help hold materials down in the wind so they don't blow away, having dried leaves, grasses, and that diversity of materials will start to break down with the soil biology. And conversely, the other thing that happens in that is that when the soil biology starts to develop and that food source is there, I'll often hear from people that, oh, my mulch, we can't have mulch because it brings in the termites and it brings in different leaf-eating insects. What we have found and what research is showing us is that that when you have a diversity of mulches, there's less pest pressures on our primary plants, because what happens is in a natural system, those leaf eaters will be in the mulches, breaking the mulches down because they have a diversity of food. It's when they only have a single type of food is when they start looking for their diversity. It's like with us, if you only feed your kids rice, you only feed your children rice, and you only eat rice, you'll eventually be nutrient deficient. You need to have a biodiverse diet, a very diverse diet that gives you the nutrients that you need. And it's the same with the pests that are in the system. So if you are giving them that diversity in the mulch, they don't seek to move to the primary plants that we're growing in that system. And then they serve a function of helping to break down that material as nutrient and organic matter for the soil biology to translate as plant usable nutrients and plant soluble nutrients that the plants can easily take up. And having a whole site project with diversity of mulching also brings a lot of other ecosystem benefits. There's a lot of benefits of protecting the soil biome as well. So that's one slow release technology that we use, or technique that we use. Another is doing deep soil preparation, where in the subsoils of growing systems, whether it's a garden bed or a large system out on a farm, we will embed a diversity of organic nutrients and also things like charcoal dust and broken up shells, and we'll embed it in the subsoil where it will release slowly, but it's not going to be too hot for the actual germination area and the young roots, but the tap root will actually go down into that. And over time, a double dug garden bed could be releasing for many, many years that nutrient over time, and creating the conditions for us to have more biodiversity in our growing system. So this strategy is something with African Women Rising we've been doing quite extensively. We've been all over the world, the different programs that are working with resilience design. We talk about the double dug bed and the single dug beds at different scales, and how this type of material being put into that subsoil builds the long-term capacity of that growing system to have a healthy soil biome. The other thing that we do that's very important in this is that we'll take some of the leaves from another system that like in a natural system. We'll take it from a long-term perennial tree system, and we'll take the leaf litter from that and we'll inoculate it right into this, so that we're starting to spread that local soil biology and to inoculate it within that. So then we're going to talk about fast nutrient release biofertilizers, and some recipes that we have. Biofertilizers are really, there are so many recipes. We're only touching on a few today. And it's something that the research is really clear. It reliably improves nutrient uptake. Oftentimes, the local biofertilizers have a more plant soluble nutrient, so there's more accessible nutrient than the chemical fertilizers. We see better root growth, and we also see increased yields, especially in low input soils. And really, the goal of our systems is to develop the nutrient cycling in a way where our agriculture plots get more fertility year after year by the different techniques that we use. So I'm going to hand this over to Evelyn to walk us through a few recipes. And thank you, Evelyn, for giving us some advice on how to do some of these important biofertilizers.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Warren, and hi to everyone. I'm so grateful to have you all here. I'm going to take you through what African Women Rising is doing as far as the resilient design is concerned. And today only we are going to discuss about biofertilization and then pest repellent. So being the team who are practicing resilient design, biofertilization is one of the key components that we look at, which help us a lot to boost on our productivity of our farming system. Next. So for today, I'm going to take you through only two biofertilizers, but we do so many biofertilizers. I'm going to share with you into details only about two biofertilizers, and one of them being concentrated fish ferment. These are biofertilizers which is made from fish ferment or waste. It is made from fish or waste fish, and this fertilizer specifically, as the team and the reason why we chose it, it is rich in amino acid, minerals, and then it has a microbial life, which help in rebuilding on the soil health. So in our practices within the field, we already realized that using this fish ferment, you will realize there is improved germination rate, vigor in plant growth, and the plant that grow within the farm after you when you're using the fish ferment, it come out with vigor, and it also has strength to withstand the shocks and stresses. More on pest and disease. When you use this, the crops are strong and they can really survive and produce quality yield. Next. So when you want to make fish ferment, you need to have this tool. You need to have 20 liters bucket. You need to have chopping board and knife, or if you don't have that, you can use any wood lot or timber locally available in your area. You need to have a stick for stirring it or for mixing, and you need to have a net for tying the bucket, and also a string for tying the net on the bucket. The ingredients that you need when you're making fish ferment, usually when you need to make 5 liters of the fish ferment, you need to have 1 kilogram of fish or 1 kilogram of fish waste. You need to have 1 kilogram of sugarcane molasses. You need to have 3 liters of clean water. And in 1 acre, you need only 1 liter of the solution per growing season. You will learn into details how you are going to apply. Next. How to prepare the fish ferment fertilizer. Number one, you need to chop your fish into smaller pieces. Our experience shows that when you really chop it into smaller pieces and you make it into smaller pieces, it is easier to ferment, and it also, the product will come out very clearly with less burn. Next. So after chopping it into smaller pieces, you put the fish ferment into a bucket, and then you add your 1 liter of sugarcane molasses, and then you add 3 liters of clean water, and then you mix the solution thoroughly together. Next. So you mix the ingredients for 1 full hour. You keep on stirring until the solution is properly mixed. After mixing it, you cover the solution with the net and you tie the net to keep insect out of the solution. When now it is properly made and you've mixed it, you've followed, you've tied, you need now to leave it to ferment. And it can ferment for 2 weeks to 4 weeks. In an area where it is cold, you leave it for 2 weeks. Where it is cold, you leave it for 4 weeks. But where it is a little bit hot, climatic condition, 2 weeks, it's okay. It will get your solution ready for use. So that ratio that I've put, it will help you to produce around 5 liters of the fish ferment. Next. Step how to apply. We need to dilute. What you've made that 5 liters, you're not going to use it all. So you dilute it in a ratio of 2 cupful of jerrycan. That one, if you convert, you can put 40 mils into 20 liters jerrycan. And then that one you can apply it in in your garden. You can soak it with your seed. You can do it how to apply it. We are going to discuss it. The remaining position, the good part of this fish ferment, you can also store it. You can keep it. It can be used for 1 full year. It can stay for 1 full year without getting damaged. So you can put it in a clean container and you store it. And you use it within that 1 year. Next. How to apply and when to apply. This is the interesting part. We have tested in our farming system in our field when we are working with our farmers. When you are just preparing the land, you can splash it on the soil. And then when you see tiny seed now germinating, you can also spray it on. And then you wait when you see it is at seedling stage where the seed is now coming out and you see a bigger plant, you apply. And then at flowering stage, when you see the first flower, you need to apply. And then lastly, when it has started fruiting, you also apply. So all these stages, you keep on applying the solution. So the good part of this is that the one that you've made at the beginning, you can store and keep on using it. So when for the seed, you can soak it for overnight, like for 12 hours. Then the following day, you use it. Next. How to test for its efficacy. As farmers, as practitioners of resilience design, we believe by really learning from what we do. So how we in African Women Rising do is that we don't just push farmers to do, but from this one where we are practicing it, it came out from our experience where you demonstrate with farmers into a smaller portion. We started by soaking. You see the difference of the seed which is soaked and the seed which has been planted without putting into fish ferment. Then also at the same time at flowering stage, you see the difference and the vigor in growth. That is how we test for the efficacy. Next. The next biofertilizer that I'm going to share also, it is on moringa leaf, majorly oleifera, this big leaf moringa. And this one is very easy to make, and You need to make it when you are using it that day and it is done. So what you need to do is you need to gather the moringa leaf, um, the fresh one which has just shooted for maybe less than 40 days. And then when you get 10 kilogram, you grind it, you add also 1 liter of water, you mix with it, and then you strain it, you only extract the liquid of moringa. The residue, you can use it to feed your animal. The residue, you can also put it back into the soil to form more compost. Then when now you are diluting, you pick if it is 1 liter of the solution, you add 32 liters of clean water and you go and apply. So that one, the application is done just within 5 hours that day. So you don't keep it for the next day. So in case now you have any emergency or you're supporting farm and you realize that there is now a deficiency or the plant is lacking nutrients, you can just make moringa within 1 day and you apply. So how to apply it? You spray it in the leaf directly on the plant, and you can do it when the plant is just 10 days or when the plant has just stayed for 1 month or at the flowering and seeding stage. That is about the moringa leaf. I will make biofertilizers from that. Thank you so much. I hand over to Warren to continue. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Evelyn. We'll have you back in just a moment to talk about some pest repellent recipes as well. But really briefly, I'm not going to go through the recipes in such detail as what Evelyn has shared, but I wanted to share some other biofertilizer recipes that we'll have in your resource PDF that we'll be sharing with you. A banana peel biofertilizer is one that we rely on quite often. It's highly rich in potassium and has calcium, magnesium, and is a wonderful way to be able to utilize that waste that is often found in the community. A Tithonia biofertilizer. So those of you who are in East Africa, there is a plant called Tithonia, but even if you aren't, let's say you're calling in from the Middle East or from Southeast Asia, there are plants like in Southeast Asia, like gamal, which is very similar to this. Every bioregion has a fertility plant that could be made into a very rich biofertilizer. And so this is one of those recipes that we use. It's very similar to the one that, that had been shared by Evelyn with the moringa. Animal urine, animal manure and urine fertilizer. And this has been a fertilizer that's been used all over the world. There's a recipe and the steps that we do have for this, but it's a wonderful recipe that we use and do root drenches. So where, unlike what the foliar spray that Evelyn had talked about, this is a type of root feeding system. So around the feeder roots of the plants, we use this animal manure and urine fertilizer. Now, it also, a lot of different places in the world, people will use human urine, and I'm not going to get too much into that, but as long as it's diluted, at least 10 to 1. And there are cultures that do that, I wanted to mention. A local ferment fertilizer. So this is just, again, a recipe using whatever local fermenting processes there are, like if it's a palm ferment or working with raw milk and clean water. Organic milk-based fertilizers. Now, these are often really, really good. They bring in a lot of beneficial bacteria into the soil biome. And we'll also talk about, when we get to pest repellents, a little bit about how milk could be used, compost teas, And then having a waste to resource cycling process that is the using a hydrolysate or a anaerobic fermentation process that could also serve as an enterprise using animal offal from the butchery and also other fish waste. I'm going to jump into natural pest repellents and just, what are they? Natural pest repellents and biopesticides strengthen the resilience within agricultural systems, helping as kind of in the triage of having issues with pests coming in. This is something that can help you directly impact them and to be able to enable a farmer to make them themselves very, very effectively. I think it's important for us to remember that pest and disease are not the problem. They're just a symptom of the problem. And so really, again, if you're having a lot of pest and disease issues, oftentimes in most conditions, it's something else is happening structurally in the soil, in the plant's ability to have nutrient uptake. And one of the things, some of the science that's come out recently is that stressed plants, which they emit a certain wavelengths of light that can attract pests like aphids and others as well. And so there's some great research right now that's actually sharing how when you have a weak plant, it actually creates an attractant to the pests that are around. And I believe that's a part of the succession process of the natural system trying to break down a weak plant so that a healthy plant can come in its place. So I'm going to hand this back over, these pesticide recipes, and have Evelyn walk through a couple with us. Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you. Thank you, Warren. I'm going to share on the pest repellent recipe from neem, tephrosia, and melia. Here we can use it in two different forms. We can use the liquid when you mixed it, and then you spray on plant, and then you can use it for post-harvest. So for the application, you crush 2 kilograms of the fresh leaves, and then you mix it with 5 liters of water. You soak it for 24 hours, and then you are ready to spray it to the plant. So you spray it against the pests like the aphids, like the sucking or chewing insects that always affect our plants. So this one, it is effective when you do it repeatedly. You do it after 7 to 10 days, but when it is not raining, you can take longer. But when it is a rainy season, you need to make it frequently. That is how we do it. And then for the post-harvest, you dry the leaves of moringa, neem, or melia. You crush it into powder form, and then you can mix with your grain. That you can keep your grain without attack by pests. Next. Yes. So the next pest repellent that we have is from the blackjack. So with the blackjack, we collect the matured one, the matured blackjack, and you need to get half a cup. You get 2 cup of water also, and then you boil it for 10 minutes. After boiling, you leave it to cool, and then you clean it, or you strain it into a clean container. Using the soap is optional. Soap that we've put there is for it to stick on the plant, or you can also use aloe vera for, making it stick on the plant. And then you mix it with what? You let it first mature and stand for 24 hours. That 24 hours, it is going to get cooled, and then you dilute, you add more 4 cups of water, which means in a half a liter, you'll use 6 cups of water, and then you spray it on your crop. This controls weevils, cricket, white flies, also aphids. We have so many other biopesticides that we make, but I'm just going to go through each one of them just briefly. So we also have pest repellent from citrus peel that you make it after you removing the citrus peel. That also can control different pests within our farming system. It is only the citrus, it is only the cover, the outer part that you remove, and then you make it. The procedures is clear. If I am to go through each one of them, the time will not allow, but that will also help in controlling pests like aphids and then the sucking insect. Next. We have natural pest repellent from hot chili. Um, that one also you make it to control different kind of pests. And you know, chili is majorly the behavior, the hotness that when you apply it, it stings the body of the insect and also other pests that attack our crops. So it controls a lot of so many pests as it is listed there. Next. We have natural pest repellent from tobacco leaf, and we have fresh, and then we have also dry tobacco leaves. We use it for also controlling that numbers of pests, including the termites and beetle. And with the tobacco, we only used the leaves, and you in both dry and fresh tobacco leaf, we pick 10 leaves and then we follow the same procedures which is listed there. Next. Yeah, I've already talked about the dry one together with this. We also have the dairy milk, fresh dairy milk. We use it also. This help in controlling the fungal disease, and majorly you also we have experience applying it in tomato and it work very well. Next. We have natural pest repellent from garlic and chili. These are mixture of them that you will mix them together and it control numbers of weeds. The garlic repels because of the smell, and then the chili also the character of the hotness, it chases them away. Next, papaya leaf. We have also made pest repellent from it for so many time with our program participants, and it works to control pests in our garden. We can also mix it with also neem, or we use the same procedure of making papaya leaf together with neem. Next. We have pest repellent from onion, ginger, and then garlic. That is mixture of them together. You blend them, you ferment them, you add soap, and soap is optional, as I said. Yeah, next. We have natural pest repellent from castor leaf. This one you crush the leaf and you soak it for overnight, you filter and apply, and it can repel caterpillars, termites, and then other soil pests. Next. We have natural pest repellent from aloe vera that you follow that procedure. You chop it into smaller pieces, you strain, and really it is like antifungal kind of pest repellent that support our crops, and also it also boosts crop immunity. Yes. So thank you so much. Those are briefly the different numbers of pest repellents that we are making, and we also have more, but now these are the ones that we can present. Thank you.
Great. I just want to thank everyone and Evelyn as well. Thank you for your wisdom and your experience. I think it's such a wonderful, important topic of our time right now to look at how to keep our plants healthy and production flourishing. So thank you all for joining us. And I look forward to connecting in one way or another over the coming months and years. Thank you.